I have here a bag of apples to taste. These are 3 different seedling apples that we tasted about a month ago. I've gotten to eat these now off the tree as they ripened through the season, and I have a much better idea of what they're about. We're going to retaste them and talk about them, which is cool because this is exciting. Brand new apple varieties. So the first one is this one here. It's Williams Pride crossed with Vixen. 15.5, that's the date code. I was about to spit that out, but I didn't want to because it's pretty good. It really is like an early Bite Me, and it dovetails right into the Bite Me season. Like right now, the first Bite Me apples that are actually edible are starting to drop off the tree, but they're definitely not ready. It's the very beginning of the Bite Me season. So I would say compared to Bite Me, so far I haven't gotten quite the richness out of this apple, but this is its first year, so there's time. Like Bite Me, it has more of like a tender flesh than a crunchy, crispy flesh. I don't consider that really a good thing, but it doesn't bother me enough that I won't, you know, eat Bite Me all the time. And the riper they get and the more tastier they get, the more the flesh becomes more like, I guess tender is really the best way I could describe it. This is also larger than Bite Me, and its parent has excellent scab resistance, so there's a good chance this will turn out to be scab resistant. So while I've been getting less and less excited about this apple through this month, now tasting this one again and thinking about all those things, it certainly seems worth having a branch anyway. I'm certainly going to put a graft onto my Bite Me tree just to have it right there on the same tree to compare how they do under, you know, literally the exact same conditions on the same tree. We're almost in the middle of October. That's kind of going to be the tail end of the season for this, and the early is probably best going to be really the beginning of October, so the first couple weeks of October, I think. Okay, this is Williams Pride X Vixen 1510, and this one has turned out to be very promising. I'm very fond of this. I've eaten a lot of them. I have had to keep myself from going out and eating these apples because I wanted to make sure that I, you know, got a good sampling through the season and made sure I could do this video. The flesh of this apple is kind of yellowish when it's very ripe, which is when it should be eaten for sure, when it's good and ripe. And it has a yellow bottom, so the bottom will go from like a light yellow to this like almost amber. It's like a really beautiful golden rich amber color. I was thinking, you know, the name of this apple could definitely have something like amber in it. It does remind me slightly of an apple called Amberoso that Green Mantle said they pulled out of Albert Etter's experimental orchards, but I've never liked that apple very much. I usually don't even eat them, and I do like this apple quite a lot. So as you can see, they vary in size quite a bit, but the biggest ones are quite large, and this is on a very stunted tree. It was very productive this year. I don't know, this one you may be able to catch some of this amber color to the flesh, like that yellow color. Real pretty. This apple has turned out to be a very rich flavor. The best ones remind me of wine, or not like an overload, not a ton, not like Vixen, but they have quite a bit of that umami richness and savory kind of character. It's pretty crisp, somewhat hard when it's you know, on the leading end of ripe. The peculiar thing about it is it's actually very juicy. It isn't that hard to chew up, but the pulp is like really fine. It's almost like you end up with a mouthful of wood pulp or something. It's really weird. I can't hardly explain it. And it's not that there's more pulp, like a lot of apples have a lot of pulp. It's just different. I don't know. It's kind of weird. All in all, I mean, it's got the size. There's a very good chance it will inherit at least some scab resistance. I really enjoy it. I could eat a lot of these. It would be one of the main apples I'd be eating if there were more of them. And yeah, it's just promising. I could see even letting this one go this year to get it out there for you guys to start testing. I'm pretty excited about it. Number 3 is this Cherry Cox seedling. This would be Cherry Cox Grenadine. I hope you can see that it has some pink flesh going there. It's not a lot, but it's significant, although some of them have none. So it's definitely not going to be like a dark red fleshed apple or anything like that. Let's go ahead and taste this one, and then I'll tell you my tasting notes from the season. As you can see from these three, they do vary in size quite a bit. Quite a few of them were pretty big. It's got a really nice texture. So compared to Cherry Cox and Cox's Orange Pippin, the texture seems to be a considerable improvement. It's pretty easy eating, light flesh, it crushes up easy, it's juicy. The acid sugar balance is quite good in this apple, and the flavor, while it's not very consistent, it definitely gets the cherry flavor, and sometimes it's just good without any kind of wow over the top flavor. The cherry flavor, while it's been strong in some, like compared to a really good Cherry Cox, it's definitely more muted than that. But it's there, to the point where I would definitely consider naming this with a cherry name. I probably got, 30 apples off this tree, so I had a good chance to taste a lot of them. Yeah, I really like this apple. In some ways it's going to be an improvement over Cherry Cox in terms of the texture. It's bigger, but it doesn't have as much of that cherry flavor as Cherry Cox does, but it is there, and when it's good, it's really good, and it can get your attention. Yeah, so another thing I've picked up in this apple before is some spice, a little bit of spicy notes. Bottom line is, I like this apple. I've been eating a lot of an apple that I have labeled as Sunrise, which I'm not sure it really is Sunrise, but when it's good, it's actually really good, and it's really good this year, and I can eat, handfuls of those things, so that's kind of my benchmark. I would just as soon eat these, actually more so, because while that has a really nice harmonious flavor and it's fairly consistent, it just doesn't have the interesting flavors that this has that I'm always kind of chasing after. So bottom line, yeah, I would eat a lot more of these if I had them. Do I want a big branch of these? Yeah, for sure. It doesn't have as much red flesh flavor, like red flavor from the red flesh, as I kind of hoped it would and thought it might, but the other thing we have to remember is that this, going forward for breeding, is very valuable. This is an improved pink fleshed apple. It's just got a lot going for it. It's got a particular character with that cherry flavor that's very good. It's good size, and it's great texture. This is a step in the right direction toward that perfect red flesh apple that we all want. So there you have it. I already have some potential names for these apples. Again, I would really like to taste them for another year or two before naming them and releasing them. But given the uncertainty of my future here on the homestead, I can only test them so much anyway, so if they're going to go out, they might as well go out early if I'm pretty sure I want them out. I can't see any reason really not to get this one out into the world. Get you guys growing it. You could have it, some of you could, if you grafted it this spring, you could have it fruiting in a year or two. And be giving me some feedback on how it grows in Illinois or Georgia or North Carolina or something. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify too, on my last apple video I was talking about, having to leave the homestead. I'll make a video. I really don't want to make that video. Like, I've been putting it off literally for years in a way, but I'll make it eventually, just talking about that whole situation and my situation. But the good news is, I just want to tell everyone that I don't have to leave right away. I can leave stuff here and come back and get it. I can't really run this thing while I'm not here. It just doesn't work. There's bears and pollination and pruning and tasting stuff like daily through a month. I mean, literally, that's what I've been trying to do with these apples. But the good news is, I'm not just like going to lose the whole thing. It's not going to get bulldozed. Nothing like that's going to happen. So I'm not going to lose very much genetic material. I might lose some to, again, bears, borers, rodents, stuff like that. So that's the good news, but I'll fill you in on the rest of it later. But, my essential problem is I don't have enough energy or money. Those are my two main problems. I always have inspiration, as long as I have energy. I'm not a person that lacks for interesting things to do. But, I have these other problems, and I'll talk to you later about that. So, two very promising apples, a third that's probably going to be a nice segue into the Bite Me season. Pretty exciting. And there was at least one more earlier August seedling in that group too, of the same Williams Pride Vixen crosses, that was actually quite promising and quite large. So good stuff coming out of the Williams Pride crosses, just as one would expect. They also bear early, so that's cool.